We have our guests here in the studio already and waiting to talk to us. And if you're not aware what we're about to talk about, well, this week is actually Scottish Adoption Week, and it's been running since Saturday. And we're joined here in the studio by Alex, who is a senior practitioner, and Clare, who is a single adopter. And we're going to be talking about them and talking to them, rather, about the issue of adoption. So we can say good morning to our guests just now. Hello there.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you both doing?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. Once we managed to get parked in Trinent, we're doing good.
It's a bit of a maze in here, isn't it? But it's nice of you to come along. Thanks for taking time to be with us this morning. And hopefully, if it's okay with you, I just want to basically ask just briefly how you came into the issue of adoption. Obviously, you've come into it from different ways.
Yeah. Well, I'll start because we came into it in the same way. To start with, actually, my journey into adoption's a bit of a long one because I'm actually an adoptive parent. I have 3 adopted children who I adopted back in 1997, so that was quite a long time ago. And then I was sort of working in engineering, so and I guess kind of life went on and changed a bit, and I ended up deciding that I'd maybe like to work in adoption services, and went and done a social work degree in my 40s, and so that was graduated for university in 2009, and actually got my first job working in adoption here in East Lothian for East Lothian Council. Then done that for a couple of years, and went to Scottish Adoption after that, so I've been there about 3.5 years. So I guess our journey into adoption started the same, although mine looks a bit different now, actually working in adoption services.
Fantastic. And Clare, you're a single adopter, of course.
I basically wanted to be a parent, and I looked at various options and thought that adoption was the best option for me, and so I approached local authority and various other agencies, and eventually ended up at Scottish Adoption, and they helped me find my son.
Fantastic. And we'll just talk briefly about Scottish Adoption Week itself, and as I was saying, it's been running since Saturday this year. And how long has that been running for?
Oh, Scottish Adoption Week's actually a brand new concept. There was an organisation called the British Association for Adoption and Fostering, and they used to run National Adoption Week every year, and a series of agencies got involved in that, and we were one of them. Unfortunately, sort of BAF kind of is no more, and there's some other organisations have taken up the responsibility for running National Adoption Week, but that seemed to be pretty much England and Wales based, and no one was doing anything in Scotland, which we thought was a kind of great shame. So this is the first ever Scottish Adoption Week, and it's kind of really been driven by our agency, Scottish Adoption, so this is a first for us, so we're all quite excited about it, and yeah, so far so good. It's been going really well. Fantastic.
Now then, let's return to our 2 guests this morning and the issue of adoption. And I'd like to turn to Clare for this next question, if that's okay. And when you first, was adoption like the only way for you to have children, or was it, how did you come to that, the issue of adoption?
Basically, I came to know about adoption because I had been a member of the children's panel, so we get quite a lot of exposure to adoption, fostering and children in care, and I didn't have any great desire to have a child that I gave birth to. I wanted to be a parent. I wasn't particularly concerned on how that came about, and through my work with the children's panel, I just thought that adoption was the best route for me.
And when you decided to look into adoption further, did you find there was help immediately available, or did you have to go sort of searching?
Basically I did quite a lot of research on the internet. I initially spoke with my local authority, and then had a look online to the different agencies, and dropped them an email initially, and a few of the agencies got back to me, but I found Scottish Adoption to be the most responsive, and their website was full of information that I felt was relevant to my journey, and when they initially phoned me back rather than sent an email, the person that I spoke to, was able to sort of give me all the information I need, and were quite responsive by saying that I could come through to meet with someone personally, rather than waiting on someone getting back to me, which I'd found the local authority, it was 5 or 6 phone calls before I could speak with the relevant social worker, whereas Scottish Adoption could really offer me a more immediate response. And then when I initially met with them, I felt really comforted by their attitudes and the way that they approached what I wanted to do.
So, Alex, I suppose that's obviously the service that Scottish Adoption offers anyone who's interested, that sort of personal service, if you like.
I think there's a recognition that when people are thinking about adoption, that's life-changing, and people are making huge decisions. And I think there's a recognition in the agency just about the magnitude of that. Also, I mean, there's lots of people in the agency, like myself, who have direct experience of adoption or who are very experienced in adoption work. And I think you can put yourself in people's position. You understand the importance of the decisions that people are making, and I guess we approach it in that regard. It's huge, it's life-changing, and we have to respond, and people need to feel that somebody's going to hold their hand through that journey. And I guess that's, as an agency, what we try and create for people from that first point of contact, actually for the rest of their life. I mean, our support kind of goes on, it kind of doesn't stop at any point. If people want to tap back into the agency for some help and support, then we're there to do that for them.
Fantastic. And obviously, Claire, that's, as you were saying there, that's what you found, you experienced.
I just felt that it was a real-time, real-life situation, whereas when I was perhaps trying to deal with local authority, there was many more people to go through, whereas I felt that there was a direct connection with Scottish Adoption. I could phone them, email them, and I got a personal instant response, not I'll get back to you in 2 or 3 weeks. They're always able to provide me with any help or information more or less immediately. And when you're dealing with something like adoption, a few days or a week is a huge amount of time and such a life-changing situation. So, I think they're small enough to be able to handle everybody individually, but big enough to be able to provide, all the support that you need.
And of course, as you say, it is such a big issue that even a few days, as you were saying, can seem like an eternity, can't it? Yeah. You're listening to Brunch here on Radio Saltire, and we're in the middle of our interview and discussion with Alex and Clare, who've joined us very kindly this morning, talking all about the issue of adoption for Scottish Adoption Week. So we mentioned briefly about, in fact, Clare, I should say, mentioned briefly about her options that she felt was available to her when she began to think about adoption. And my next question for Clare is, what ultimately made you choose Scottish Adoption? Obviously, you mentioned about the personal touch and replies and things like that.
Yeah, one of the major sort of plus points I felt with Scottish Adoption was adoption isn't just the process of getting your child. It's a lifelong difference, I guess, that someone will have in their life, and I wanted to make sure that I could provide the appropriate backup for my child, and Scottish Adoption are able to provide lifelong through care in all sorts of ways, support for myself through single adopters groups, support for my child through all sorts of groups for them, from when he's a toddler, right up to he's a teenager, and then when he's an adult. And I feel that I've used some of those services when I've maybe had a bad day or a bad week, and you're able to just drop them a line and say, this has been happening. Number one, is it normal? And number two, will it get better? and how do I make it get better, and I felt that was one of the services that really set them apart, because it is a lifelong journey, and just having support during the time that you're adopting, I don't feel is enough, and certainly Scottish Adoption, really proved their worth, to myself, that they're committed to that.
So obviously there's been a lot of support for you, after the decision's been made, and obviously that will continue as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess there must be a lot of, when you make the decision to adopt, obviously it's a commitment, as you say, but obviously there must be some concerns and anxieties as well. So I imagine Scottish Adoption were there to sort of help untangle all that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a lengthy process, and it's, in a sense, intrusive in your life, because you've got to really be honest about who you are, and the type of person that you are, and it has an impact not just on your life but on your family's life as well. So I found that Scottish Adoption were really able to answer all the questions that not only did I have, but that my immediate family had in the process of adoption and what that meant. So they're really well equipped to handle a variety of questions from a variety of people, not just, the adopter.
And Alex, if I just turn back to you, and of course Claire and myself were just touching on the issue of the care that adopters can have long after the decision's been made. Obviously it's a continuous process.
Yeah, I mean, there's a recognition of that in our agency. In fact, our agency is structured to do that, this recognition that adoption is lifelong. So we have sort of basically two teams in our agency. The first team is the placement team, and that's the team I kind of work for. And really our job is about the recruitment, assessing adopters, getting them to a point where they're approved as adopters, linking and matching them with the right child or children, making that placement, and getting them all the way through to a legal order is granted that gives adopters the same legal rights and responsibilities as people would have if children were born to them. So that's our kind of role as the placement team. We have another team of very skilled people who are our sort of after adoption support team, and they offer a range of services. Actually, some of that Claire touched on, the single adopters group, and that's part of a whole range of after adoption services, which includes group work, individual work with families. We have strong links with people like Holly Van Gulden, who's a kind of well-known sort of expert in the field of adoption, American psychologist who will come and visit the agency twice a year, and our adopters can come to sessions by her, either individual sessions or group sessions. And we also have our kind of therapy centre, which is kind of growing by the day, where we offer art therapy, music therapy, and some sensory integration work. So that's very specific work with children who are maybe struggling with transitions at certain stages in their life. And so the agency is set up to recognise that it's not just about this initial recruitment, assessing and making the placement, that people will need a range of support through their kind of whole adoption journey, and that's lifelong, and the agency is set up to provide that.
Fantastic. And how are things going at the moment for you, Claire, just now?
Fantastic. I've had my son for about a year and a half living with me, and I've had an adoption order granted, so he's legally my son and I'm his parent, and it's fantastic. It's not to say that we don't have the occasional blip, but every child will have a blip, but what I know is that if I do have an issue, I can phone or email Scottish Adoption, and there's somebody there immediately to help me with my issue. But adoption in itself it's amazing. I wanted to be a parent, and now I'm a parent, so from that respect it's wholly fulfilling, and I'm absolutely delighted that I chose to take that path.
So no regrets at all?
absolutely none.
Fantastic. And that takes us now on to our next segment with our guests this morning, Alex and Clare. Now, let's just take a look at the website here I've got in front of me, scottishadoption.org, and I see there's quite a lot of links and services available. And if anyone is interested, Alex, in the issue of adoption, I presume that would be quite a good place to start.
I think our website is a great place to start, actually. There's been a lot of work put into the website over the last couple of years, and I think that it really does contain a lot of useful information. Going back to Claire's start on her journey in terms of doing that bit of research, and it helps you understand a bit about the process, it helps you understand about timescales, but I think more importantly it starts to give a flavour of who the children are and what contemporary adoption looks like in Scotland, because not everybody has a good grasp of who the children are and what their situation is that they have come to be in need of adoption. I think the other thing for our website, it takes on this thing about being lifelong as well, because we now have a secure part of our website where once people have children placed with them, they're given their own sort of login details and password, and there's more resources on there that are aimed specifically at people who maybe need a bit of additional help. So even our website has this kind of idea that adoption is lifelong, and there'll be stuff on there for people at every stage of their journey. But certainly people thinking about adoption, I think our website's a great place, and you kind of would say that, but I think it is a great place to go and get all that kind of starter information. Then, you know, and there's a little initial inquiry form on there as well, so people can just fill that in, kind of submit it to the agency, and that's the sort of way of getting the ball rolling and getting the process started for people. If you go on there and you think that's really good, but you know, I'd just like to find out a bit more information, then fill in the little initial inquiry form, kind of pop that back to us online, and that prompts someone from the agency to contact people then and really start the ball rolling in terms of having that discussion about whether adoption might be right for that person.
So the website obviously carries through, as you say, the ideals that, you know, it is obviously a lifelong commitment, so that's fantastic. And if anyone, you know, some people may have preconceived ideas about adoption, which is, you know, fair enough, because we all have those sort of ideas. You know, there might be the issue that some people might feel it's a long and difficult process, and that might put them off. Is that, you know, is that something you've come across?
Well, I think it is, and I think it's, again, about understanding the magnitude of the decision that people are making, and I think one of the commonly asked questions about how long will it take, and, you know, I think we are being very, very clear about our timescales. You know, people can go online, fill in this initial inquiry form, we'll respond to that pretty much immediately, actually, and invite people into our office for a further chat on their interest in adoption and help them understand what adoption looks like and explore whether that might be right for them. If that goes okay, we run preparation groups fairly regularly. I think we run about sort of 8 or 9 prep groups last year, so people will be invited to those groups. Now, they fill up quite quickly, so sometimes people might have a wait of maybe a couple of months to get on a group where they come and they find out more details about adoption. If that doesn't put them off and they still think it's right for them, then they'll be allocated a worker to do their assessment and gather information about why we believe adoption would be right for them. And there are timescales that we set to that. So once you have a worker allocated, our aim is to get you to panel within 6 months where you would be approved as an adopter. So we're very clear about the timescales, and I think the feedback we generally get is it's not as long as people expected it to be. I guess after you're approved, there's that bit of being linked and matched with the right child, and that really is how long is a bit string, because people who are offering a very narrow resource might wait longer, whereas people are offering a wider resource and may consider older children, or even looking at a sibling group where brothers and sisters have been placed together, then they probably will wait less time. So really that linking and matching with the right child is difficult to pinpoint in terms of timescales, but that front end bit, that approaching the agency right through to being approved and available for a placement, actually we manage that quite well, and that tends to be shorter than people expect it to be. And I don't know if that's Claire's experience, but certainly that's generally the feedback we get.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, actually. Is that what you found yourself personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt that certainly my experience with Scottish adoption in the initial stages up until I was approved as an adopter, you know, it did move fairly quickly. There were no long delays. There was a timeline mapped out, so I knew what expectations I had, and I was able to work to those expectations. There's quite a lot of work involved, and one of the things about adoption I found is that you can never be too prepared. You know, and you can never have too much information. It's definitely something that you need to do your research into, and you need to try to gather as much information from as many sources as possible. But that initial stage until you're approved, it was 6 months for me. Spot on, and I discussed that with Alex on our initial meeting. What was the expectation to get me to approval, because that's what I wanted to know at that stage. When am I going to be ready to look at children? And he said it would be 6 months, and yeah, it was 6 months. There was no delays, but it takes a lot of work to get there, and Scottish Adoption will hold your hand through it all.
Fantastic, and that's quite a very nice way of putting it, I must say. Yeah, and obviously it's working to see what's best for the child and the adopter as well, obviously. And have you, has it been easy for you to go through the adoption process amongst other things going on in your life, or how did you find that sort of balance?
I mean, there's certainly quite a time commitment, and that's something that's explained to you. So at your preparation group and at any meetings that you'll have with your worker from Scottish Adoption, everything's clearly laid out, so you can make plans, and an assessment about how much time is it going to take up. So it's quite easily managed, but there's definitely a time commitment that you need to put in. There's no doubt about that. But it does pay dividends. Once you've put that time in, you can be confident in the work that you've done and meeting the deadline that you've put in place.
And if anyone is interested in the issue or exploring the issue further, obviously we've mentioned the website scottishadoption.org, and is there any other ways they can get in touch, or any other ways they can express an interest at all?
Yeah, people can phone the office for a sort of informal chat. Our number's 0131 553 5060, and we always have a duty worker in the office who will take calls and answer queries. I mean, we would probably always point people back to filling in the initial inquiry form online, but there may be some specific issues or some specific questions that people want to ask that are unique to them, and it's sometimes good just to phone up and have a quick chat with somebody just to put people's mind at rest, and that may be around some medical issue that someone may have. Lots of times people phone up because they already have birth children but would maybe like to extend their family through adoption and would like to have a chat about thinking about the impact on their own birth children, or does that create any restrictions. So there are specific things where people maybe aren't just quite as comfortable going online and filling on the initial inquiry form. So it's worthwhile giving us a call on 0131 553 5060 and just ask for a chat with the duty worker, and there'll always be somebody there to take the call and give the best advice they can.
Brilliant. And time is always the enemy on this programme, I'm afraid, but it's simply been wonderful to talk to you both, and thank you very much indeed for coming down to the studio today. It's been really great to hear, and about the issue of adoption, and it was good to hear that obviously no regrets at all about going through that journey. Sounds fantastic. So thank you very much indeed, Alex, and thank you, Claire, and feel free to come back anytime, and David, to yourself as well. Maybe you could come on air if you want to at some point. But it's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
That's great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. No problem.